Everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Shauna Fardy. I am Vice Chair on the Board of Directors for the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a financial planner with Sun Life Financial. I'm very excited for the afternoon, in case you can't tell. And I'm pleased to be part of this celebration, which recognizes the achievements of women in our community. So first, I'd like to begin with our land acknowledgement. So I want to begin our meeting in a good way. By acknowledging the land that we live and work on, this is an important step on our path of truth and towards reconciliation, which is the work of all Canadians. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, whose presence here continues to this day. We also would like to acknowledge this is the unceded treaty lands of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty, and thank the signatory nations respectively for sharing these lands with us. We would also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our closest First Nation community, and we extend the hand of partnership to them so we can live in a good way and in accordance with our treaty agreements. We are all treaty people, and we all have responsibilities to the treaty agreements. And I invite you to find out more about the treaty that you live on and consider not only the way that the land shows up for you, but how you can show up for the land to live in reciprocity. I would now like to introduce Emanuel, President and CEO, Newmarket Chamber of Commerce, and Jim Van Dusen, Chief Operating Officer of NewRoads Automotive Group.
Afternoon all. It is so nice to be in person, back doing events, and thank you, Shauna, for emceeing this event. It's just a wonderful event, and I think a great partnership between the Chamber and NewRoads that formed two events that came together a number of years ago. But this is also the 15th year that the Newmarket Chamber has been celebrating International Women's Day. So the first thing I want to do is, and I don't know where they're sitting, but I want to point out two of our past president CEOs, Deborah Scott and Tracy Mcgregor, who are here today, up here. And the reality is the work that they've done in building the Chamber of Commerce into the organization that it is today is second to none. And I'm truly grateful for stepping into their very big shoes that they've left. I should also point out we're joined by our neighbor to the south, Sandra Ferry from the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. It's the day after International Women's Day, but we're celebrating International Women's Day. And I'd be remiss, and my colleagues Tyler and Abdus share the sentiment. We're fortunate to work with an incredible group of women at the Chamber of Commerce. I've now worked with them for 4 months. I've known many of them for years before when I was a Chamber member in a past life. But getting to work with this group of women has just been an honor and an incredible experience. And we're in good hands with them at the helm. They're getting me trained, but it's been such an honor. And really can't do any of this without all that they do. So a special shout out to Roseanne, Lori, Leslie, Andrea, Jennifer, and Tanya. They do amazing work. And also, part of International Women's Day is recognizing the women that have an impact on your life, and those have blazed trails. And I'm fortunate to have my partner Carrie here today, and it's so important that when you've got someone that shows unconditional love, and the reality is we're much stronger when we've got someone like Carrie, a strong woman. And so I'm fortunate to have a strong woman in my life. And so anyways, I'll try to move on. But the reality is there's so many women here that have a profound impact on your community, your business, your lives. And that's what we're here to celebrate, both in the two guest speakers we have, but in the awards as well. This year has been a critical one, the past 2 years through the pandemic. And the reality is, when you look at the statistics, we know that in almost every major category, whether it be health, whether mental, physical, whether it be job losses, whether it be income loss, women have been disproportionately affected more than men in every major category. And so as we rebuild out of the pandemic, we need to make sure that we always have a lens to that and making sure that we are doing everything we can, because it will affect all of the lives in our society. The reality is, we have faced what everyone's calling the Great Resignation. We need to view this as the Great Reset. This is an opportunity to reset things, to build and ensure equality going forward. And this is just one of those events where we call attention to that. And so thank you for this, and we look forward to celebrating all of your achievements today. Thank you. Now I'm going to call it Jim Van Dusen from NewRoads.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Shauna. Welcome, everybody. Happy International Women's Day, belated one day. International Women's Day is such a special time, particularly at our organization. We love to celebrate what the women in our organization bring to us. We've been celebrating this event through various ways for many, many years now. I'd be remiss, I think, to not remember 2 years ago when we had this event last. Which was actually the last event before everything shut down. For those who were here may recall, for many of us it was the last event we got to attend in person for nearly 2 years. So it's kind of great to be back. Soon we might not have to wear masks from the sounds of it, but at least we've all gotten through it, and we've gotten through it together. I would like to apologize a little bit for missing the reception portion today. I hope you'll understand why. We are extremely busy at NewRoads this week. I'm really happy to announce that yesterday we closed the deal on the purchase of a new dealership in Newmarket. Newmarket Toyota we purchased, so it'll be renamed NewRoads. Sorry, what did I say? Toyota? Oh yeah, we bought those 3 years ago, sorry. Honda, Newmarket Honda. See why you have to have the women here in your group to help keep you straight? Yes, sorry, Newmarket Honda, we closed the deal on yesterday. So the close takes an enormous amount of work, and the transition that we're going through right now, so I'm sorry for missing the event, and I'll probably have to scoot out of here shortly after I speak, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to address everybody today and appreciate all the great work that the Chamber does, and appreciate International Women's Day on behalf of NewRoads. More importantly, though, I'm here today to talk about two really great organizations that are being supported here today, and that's Girls Inc., firstly. Girls Incorporated of York Region is a youth organization dedicated to empowering girls and young women to seek the highest quality of life possible. Programs are designed to enhance confidence and self-esteem in girls and young women while giving them the skills and tools they need in order to be empowered and be productive and contributing members of society. And it's an organization that's dear to my heart, having 3 daughters, and not only here, but in Durham region, where I also have a dealership where we support them, and they do amazing work. So we're super proud to have them here today. And Emily, there's Emily. Thanks for coming out today and representing such a fantastic organization. Thank you. And secondly, the Women's Center of York Region. In 2020, this amazing organization helped 768 women and their families. The Women's Center provides counseling services and skills development programs for women who have experienced abuse or significant barriers to prosperity. It is a safe place where women can get the support to build self-esteem, the tools to develop an action plan, and the opportunity to build the skills that they need to help themselves and their families. So, Leora, there's Leora, give a wave. Thank you for joining us today as well, and thank you truly to both these organizations for all the amazing work they do in our community. So one last big round of applause for them. It's pretty tough to pull off events like these if you don't have the support, and particularly in a facility like this that is connected to the town and owned by the town. So Charles Kaiser and Janet Raponi, I think you guys are here, I hope. Thanks so much for all your help in putting this together and helping us pull the event off today. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back to Shauna, I believe. There you go, Shauna. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you, Chris and Jim. That actually brings up a really good point. We're here to celebrate women. We're here to celebrate each other. But the significant others in our lives, the people that care about us the most, our family, our friends, our parents, our well, the friends that we consider family, everyone that comes around us and supports us in being who we are and who we're meant to be and who we want to be. Isn't that something to give an applause for as well? So we're very grateful to our partners and sponsors who have made this special afternoon possible. Oh, goodness, hello. First and foremost, thank you to NewRoads Automotive Group and RBC Royal Bank. I would also like to recognize the York Region Business Enterprise Centre, the Upper Canada, A Million Mouthfuls for amazing food out there, holy smokes. Farm Boy for the fantastic swag bags that you'll receive as you leave today. I don't know if you knew about that, but I'm very excited. And Olive Oil Company, Norbrem Group Insurance Benefits, and My Indie Coffee for their additional giveaways you will all receive. I'd also like to recognize, or we would like to recognize, the dignitaries in attendance. We have Tony Van Bynen, MP Newmarket Aurora. Tom Vey, Town of Newmarket Regional Councillor. I believe I saw him. There we are. And the Town of Newmarket Councillors, Jane Twinney, where are we? Christina Pizans, and Kelly Broom. Isn't it nice? They're all together, so we were able to see you. Members of the board in attendance. We have board chair Kyle Burgess from Minkin Employment Lawyers, Maria Carlandini from Vince's Market, Ruby Liu from Newmarket Toyota. And I would now like to introduce Vivian Ho-Tam, Small Business Consultant, Planning and Economic Development, Corporate Services for the Region of York, and a partner in today's event, to say a few words. Podium's yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us join the Newmarket Chamber's annual celebration of Women's Event Day. My name is Vivian Ho-Tam, Small Business Consultant at the York Small Business Enterprise Centre. We are proud to be partners in today's event. Funded in part by the Province of Ontario's Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and managed by the Regional Municipality of York's Economic Strategy Division, the York Small Business Enterprise Centre, otherwise known as YSBEC, is a business resource centre located in Newmarket, which serves the northern 6 municipality of York Region: Aurora, East Gwillimbury, Georgina, King, Newmarket, and Woolcher-Stouffville. Our office provides both new startups and existing small businesses with services that include consultation, resources, and business plan support, development support, seminars and workshops, and the delivery of entrepreneurship programs such as Summer Company and Starter Company Plus. All our services are provided free of charge. We also have a dedicated COVID-19 resource webpage on our website to help you navigate the many funding programs that are available to your small businesses. For more information about our office, please visit our website at yorklink.ca.
All right, well, thank you, Vivian. My bad. I'd also be remiss if I missed John Taylor as one of our visiting dignitaries. So Mayor of the Town of Newmarket. Okay, our founding sponsor, RBC, has been a part of this event since 2007. Please join me in welcoming Meena Krishan. She is the VP Commercial, specializing the healthcare industry for the Royal Bank of Canada.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. Today, yesterday, and I think every day. I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see the strides that we've made in the world where women are concerned. Organizations are striving to get to the 50-50%. So I know RBC is definitely moving in that direction, so proud to be an RBCer, and I have a group of colleagues here with me who are here to celebrate with everyone. And yes, it's wonderful to be here in person. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce the first speaker for this afternoon, Julie Crimes. She's a grief coach and end-of-life doula. I would imagine not an easy job, but definitely one that is so much appreciated. And the main passion behind her business is her desire to help people in need, and thus she's found very creative ways of following her heart. Please join me in welcoming Julie.
Thank you so much. And a special thank you to Chris Emanuel for pointing out that I didn't have to use those stairs. That was my biggest worry. Thank you to everybody for the introductions and for being here today. And I'm really, really honored to be a part of this 2022 celebration of women. My congratulations to the incredible group of women who have been nominated for this award. If I may, I would like to begin by asking you some questions. If you have ever lost someone you truly love, ever struggled through divorce or relationship breakup, please raise your hand and keep it raised. If you have ever been bullied, lost your job, lost your business, lost your home, or experienced discrimination, please raise your hand. If you have ever experienced a miscarriage, an abortion, or struggled through infertility, please raise your hand and let's keep those hands raised. If you or anyone you love has had to cope with mental illness, dementia, or a life-altering physical impairment, please raise your hand. And finally, if you have ever lived through a pandemic, please raise your hand. Now, I would like you to take a look around you, and as you can see, we are surrounded by loss. Please put your hands down if you haven't already done so, and thank you for your honesty. At any given moment, there will be someone in your life who is struggling with loss. It's part of life, and it does not discriminate. Whatever your race, culture, background, gender, sexual orientation, education, or level of income, you will face adversity in the form of loss and grief at some point in your life. For me, the defining moment came in 2006, when my husband Mark was diagnosed with leukemia. Before we even had time to process this devastating news, he became an inpatient at Princess Margaret Hospital, starting a 30-day induction protocol. The only thing I could be sure of at this point was that I didn't know what I didn't know. I wanted to focus on him, but our two young kids needed me too. Mark went into hospital in the summer and came home in the fall to begin months and months of relentless treatment. The daily grind of medications and appointment waiting rooms soon became a blur, and my frustration and anxiety threatened to eat me alive. I had to do something with all this nervous energy. I needed to somehow find something good that would help me to make sense of a painful situation. One early morning, while driving down to the hospital in Toronto, I had a moment of clarity. I decided to try and create something which would honor Mark's journey and give both of us something positive to focus on. This moment evolved into the Mad Hatter's Walk for Leukemia Research. Not only did it give me something to focus on, it also gave my husband a much-needed project to distract him from the discomfort and indignities of chemotherapy and radiation. I had very little experience of planning and coordinating big public events, but I soon discovered that passion and determination together create a superpower. With lots and lots of work and huge support from our incredible Newmarket community, the first annual Mad Hatter's Walk became a reality in May 2007, 10 months after Mark's diagnosis. Over 3 consecutive years, we were able to raise an incredible $120,000 for leukemia research. It also reinforced our sense of community and gratitude for a town where we had only lived for a few years. Remission came and went, and in the fall of 2010, Mark relapsed. This called for a different protocol, which included 3 chemo injections into the spine. Sadly, Mark reacted to the drug immediately after the final injection, and it caused him severe brain damage. As a result of this, he became unable to speak, walk, or even feed himself. He was soon taken off the bone marrow donor list since he was not in a fit state to receive one, even if a donor could be found. He was transferred back up to Southlake, where the wonderful physio team did their very best to teach him to walk again. But any progress never lasted. I brought him home in time for Christmas that year and hired a nurse to tag team with me as he needed 24-hour care. Since he was now confined to a wheelchair and a hospital bed, our world shrank. Our kids, now 7 and 8, took it in their stride, as kids often do, and just accepted that Daddy needed a lot of help now. In the middle of June 2011, I received a phone call and was told that the cancer was back. Nothing else could be done, and Mark would most likely die within 3 weeks. It was my job to tell him, our children, and the rest of the family. This was naturally very hard, but I was learning that I could do hard things. 3 weeks turned out to be only 12 days, and my wonderful parents and twin sister flew here from Scotland to support me through it. Although Mark wanted to die at home, when the end came near, I couldn't go through with it. He was not conscious, and I was scared of how it might look at the very end. I was worried that our children's lasting memory of their dad might be an ugly or traumatic one. I felt very unprepared for what might happen. And looking back, I wish I had had an end-of-life doula by my side to offer comfort, knowledge, and support. I was also afraid that he might die and emerge and be surrounded by strangers. So I looked up hospice near me and got through to Hill House in Richmond Hill late that evening. Astonishingly, they had 1 bedroom available, and they sent an ambulance immediately. That turned out to be his last night, and he died the following afternoon in the safety and peaceful surroundings of Hill House. I was with him when his heart stopped beating, and I remember the feeling of disbelief. I was also breathtakingly grateful for the fact that I could spend Mark's last moments with him in such a warm and peaceful environment. I wondered if, had life turned out differently, if I could have found work and meaning in such a place. In the meantime, I needed to get back on my feet and figure out the single parenting thing. My father died 14 months later, so both my mom and I were learning how to be widows at the same time. I returned to teaching and enjoyed the familiarity and the energy of working with children. My teaching career had been enjoyable and satisfying for many years, and it had enabled me to work all over the world before I had my own kids. But something had changed in me when my husband died. I was just so busy surviving that I didn't even realize it until years later. I didn't forget about my dream to work with grieving individuals and their families, though, and a chance encounter led me to becoming a hospice volunteer at the recently opened Margaret Bayon Hospice here in Newmarket. Spending time with hospice families reminded me why I had been drawn to that work. It made me realize that something had been missing in my life for a long time, and that was a sense of meaning. Being with families whose loved one was dying actually gave me a sense of value and purpose that I didn't even know had been missing. I remained open to the idea of having love in my life, and 8 years after Mark died, I married a wonderful man. He's right there. Also Mark. Oh, but wait. Our wedding party included our 5 grown children, including 2 Olivers. Yeah, I have one and he has one. And so began yet another new chapter. 8 months after our beautiful cottage wedding, we went into the first pandemic lockdown. Teaching changed forever, and I began to seriously question my priorities and values. Like most of my colleagues, for a while I just rolled with the punches, learned how to teach remotely, and endured the daily headaches of being dependent on technology. I knew I needed to find the sense of purpose that I was missing, and I wanted to explore my options. While I was still teaching full-time, I stumbled across the role of an end-of-life doula, and I was intrigued. My hospice work was rewarding, but I knew I had more to offer. The role of a death doula or end-of-life doula has been around for centuries, but the term is relatively new. Just as a birth doula coaches and supports a mother and family through the birthing process, a death doula does likewise at the other end of life. When I looked into the course content to earn certification, it seemed to be exactly what I was looking for. As I started my training and connecting with other like-minded people, I was reminded of that expression. You don't know what you don't know. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to know. I decided to take a huge and impulsive leap of faith and register myself as a business, even before my initial training was finished. Nobody had less of an idea how to start a business than I did. I had no idea. However, I was able to tap into my superpower, aka passion and commitment, and I searched for the right people to get me started. Our local small business centre, and in fact Vivian, who we just saw, was instrumental in guiding me through the red tape of obtaining a business number, license, etc. I remember thinking, okay, what do I need next? I know, business cards. With some help from Vistaprint, I designed my first box of 200 business cards, and suddenly I felt real. Let me give you a tip. For any other budding entrepreneurs out there, please do not waste your money ordering business cards in the first week. You won't like them in the second week. So what was my greatest barrier to starting my practice, other than an unhealthy obsession with stationery? I discovered that the greatest barrier to doing this work and helping people through the process is the word itself. As a society, we are very uncomfortable talking about death, let alone planning for it, even though it is as natural as life itself. There are many who think it is bad luck, morbid, or plain bad manners to say the word, let alone discuss it. This reluctance can be identified all across many cultures. And in 1970, John Underwood from England created the Death Cafe movement to try and open up that conversation. One of my favorite quotes of his is, "Just as talking about sex won't make you pregnant, so talking about death won't make you dead." In the spirit of providing a safe space for having these conversations, some doulas, death doulas, including myself, host these free events for anyone who has questions which they're too afraid to ask. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but being able to ask questions and share opinions in a non-judgmental space is a good start. Family discussions around this topic rarely seem to happen. So end-of-life planning and support was the area I initially intended to specialize in. But there is still so much reluctance to even acknowledge this momentous event that I realized it may take much longer than I anticipated to serve in the role of a death doula. Meanwhile, I decided to focus on expanding my expertise in the area of grief. Grief is, after all, a common thread which unites us all. When someone or something is taken from us, we experience a grief response. We don't get to decide how we will feel or how long it will last. There is no rule book and no precedent for us to follow. Mourning, which is the outward display of grief, often involves rituals and patterns of social behaviors. But grieving itself is a unique and personal process. Why then is our society so ill-equipped to support people in grief? The truth is, grief is often ugly and painful to witness. It is an unwelcome guest at any gathering. Social norms include phrases such as, "My condolences on your loss," "I'm sorry for your loss," "At least they're in a better place," "At least they didn't suffer," "At least." None of these expressions makes the grieving person feel heard or supported. Their main job seems to be to make the well-meaning friend feel better. The words "at least" have no place here. What they do is actually diminish the pain of the grieving person. If you don't know what to say, I recommend you say exactly that. Let your friend know that you are here to support them, but try to avoid platitudes and attempts to bright side the situation. They need to feel heard and have their pain validated, period. If you have grieving children in your life, they need to feel heard too. Too often, adults try to protect them from the truth. But if we are not honest with them, then we risk losing their trust. By telling them stories, we just end up confusing them. Many kids instinctively know when they're being lied to, and then they make up their own explanations using their own fertile imaginations. Children are generally curious about facts, and they can usually handle more than we think. As long as the message is delivered kindly and we encourage them to ask questions, having open and honest dialogues will help you and them in the end. Since grief is not an emotion, but rather a whole body response to the pain of loss, anything we feel during the grieving process is valid and needs to be normalized. The truth is, we really don't know what we don't know. And I had no idea there were so many different types of grief. I learned about anticipatory grief, ambiguous grief, traumatic grief, disenfranchised grief, collective grief, cumulative grief, and complicated grief. Each label applies to an individual's grieving process, the event that triggered it, and society's response to it. The labels simply help us to understand the complexities of grief, and they can help us to support people more effectively. It is also part of the human condition. Sometimes it seems like we are surrounded by it, and the ongoing pandemic has only intensified this. For 2 years, we have been experiencing collective grief as a result of loss of freedom and personal connections. This has been compounded by many personal losses, which have been made even worse by the inability for the bereaved to be present with their loved one or to participate in the rituals of their culture. So while I love my role as a volunteer bedside companion for the residents of Margaret Bay and Hospice, I find myself working in the area of grief support and education much more than end of life. Am I okay with that? Absolutely. I believe that I can make a difference in both roles, and that grief and death are both just part of life. So why did I not make this change earlier? To be honest, I think I was just busy living my life, as I had for so many years. I didn't question whether or not I felt fulfilled. I didn't ask myself if there was something else, something different that I could do, something that might give me more meaning to my daily life. I was comfortable working with children in a school where everyone knew me, where my role and my identity were completely clear. I think I would have been afraid to take the risk, give up my regular paycheck, start a business, risk people's judgment, etc., any earlier than I did. Even when my time came, and I did decide to truly follow my heart and commit myself to this area of work, I was apprehensive. I had 2 children just beginning university, and I genuinely wondered if I could make this work, if I would even be any good at it. Here is what I know. The journey, which for me really began 16 years ago with my husband's cancer diagnosis, has been one of self-discovery. I still volunteer at hospice every week, and I feel honored to companion the residents there. I have learned to acknowledge and accept my limitations and to ask for help. I have learned that some business relationships are not productive. I have learned the necessity of supportive relationships. I have learned that I can do hard things. We can do hard things. It's never too late to give up on an old dream or even to create a new one. Our dreams can evolve and change just like we do. I think the key is to trust your gut instinct. Trust that you can be the person you feel you are meant to be. And then be prepared to work really, really hard to learn whatever new skills you will need. It's important to accept that it may not be an easy road, but know that it will be worthwhile in the end. If you believe in yourself, you're already halfway there. If you are lucky enough to have the love and support of somebody special to you, you are more than halfway there. I would like to leave you today with the words of Martin Luther King. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. What an empowered, wonderful insight into your world. I know that I appreciate everything that you've talked about. It's something that I deal with on a daily basis as well in my world. So thank you for that. And as the entrepreneurial piece of you as well. Now to introduce our next speaker, Shabi Musavi. She's the founder and CEO of the Market Candle Company. In just a few short years, Shabi has grown her company from its humble beginnings at her kitchen counter to a business with retail space and more than 25 retailers across Canada. She sells her gorgeous smelling candles. And please join me in welcoming her. I have to admit that everyone got candles at Christmas time for me. And walking into her store, it was like going shopping with an old friend that I've known forever. And basically, just to give you a little bit of a hint in my world, I said, okay, so they just bought a house, and this is the way that they are, and this is the way that what they like to eat, and this is what they generally seem to me in public. And she would say, this candle right here is the one for them. It was amazing. Anyways, I'd like to introduce Shabi, and you can come to the stage. There we go.
Thank you, Shauna. Hello, everybody. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for having me here today. This is quite the honor. I'd like to give you all a fair warning, Julie, that was very inspiring. I have zero hopes of anybody leaving here today feeling inspired. In fact, I suspect you'll probably jot down some notes on what not to do. When Jennifer first reached out to me back in December and asked me if I'd like to be one of the keynote speakers at this event, I took a brief moment to contemplate a few facts. A, I have not engaged in any form of public speaking since forced university presentations, which is a very long time ago now. I have the memory of a goldfish, and I would most definitely be reading from my paper the entire time. And this is the Women of Excellence Awards. I feel like I'm probably better suited to speak at the middle-aged gal, trying my best and barely getting by awards. I then thought to myself, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Agreed, and began to settle into my gross overcommitment, which is a great skill of mine, overcommitting, not public speaking. In retrospect, I'm actually living my nightmare, which I didn't think was gonna be a thing, but here we are. Once the initial panic of this gross overcommitment settled, I started researching key elements of a good keynote speech. I was brought to articles of famous speakers like Steve Jobs and Barack Obama, and I was like, I don't feel great about myself after this. Then I asked, okay, why would somebody be asked to give a keynote speech in front of a group of intelligent people? Am I an industry expert? Questionable at best. Am I a notable public figure? My mom and dad think I'm a shining star. And I'm pretty happy with my Instagram following, but aside from that, I don't think that's really the category that I fall into. The last example was for entertainment, and I thought, okay, this is where I could shine. I don't bring a lot to the table, but when I'm around, you can usually bank on a few giggles and some self-deprecation. I asked Jennifer what we were after. What's the vibe? She said, just be yourself and tell your story. I always feel like when people have stories to tell, they're stories of trials and tribulations and ups and downs and successes and failures, and I'm like, I'm a pretty boring person. But here we are. So I figured, okay, let's try to create this perfect trifecta of a keynote speech, tell my story, let's be an expert on just squeaking by. Let's be a notable public figure and like maybe get a handful of new Instagram followers. And let's have some laughs and maybe some cries. I'll be myself because frankly, I'm incapable of masking who I am as a person. And I will tell you the tale of how I managed to ditch the mundane corporate life to chaotically work for myself for a significantly lower wage. So how did we get here? I was an ambitious toddler. I expressed my desire to leap into the workforce at the tender age of 3 years old. I wanted to roll up my sleeves and get out there. And to do what, you might be thinking? Lawyer, teacher, scientist? No. I had a deep passion for waste management. I wanted to be the garbage lady more than anything else in the world. As one can imagine, my traditional Iranian parents were less than thrilled with this career ambition, which is actually a recurring theme which will resurface a few more times in my life. Every Wednesday, I would barrel to the front window when I woke up, greasy toddler nose just pressed up against that window, breath fogging it up, waiting for the sounds of the garbage truck. Nothing delighted me more, and I just wanted to like swing and dangle from the back of that truck. If there was a day that I missed, it was game over, day ruined. This lasted for years. But when I started attending school, I learned of many other career choices and thought, okay, I can keep my options open, let's shop around a bit and see where I'd be a good fit. Growing up, I did not fit in. I was the only person of remote color in a small Hamilton French immersion school. I was boisterous, outgoing, loud, and creative, but I was picked on because it was the late 80s. It never killed my spark, though. I was not as confident as I am today. As most teens do, I went through my ups and downs, my self-confidence issues, my existential crisis, my absolute euphoria when I went from an A cup to a B cup in the summer of grade 11. I made the decision to leave my hometown for post-secondary education. I wanted a fresh start, and I wanted the chance to be myself, not the tame version of myself that had been etched at over 18 years from peer pressure and the desire to fit in. I wanted to be me, and I wanted to be confident in that me. So I moved to Toronto in the summer of 2003 and began my almost 15-year journey to what would end up being technically an astronomical waste of post-secondary education money. And if I may just preface this by saying, I don't understand how at 16 years old you have to decide on courses that are going to dictate the rest of your life. Like at 16 years old, I was focusing on my MSN chat name, my braces, and my bra size. Anyways, I studied psychology in university as I had chosen to make my parents proud. I wanted to be a world-famous psychologist. With the history of mental health issues in my family, it was rooted in a genuine desire to help and understand. I quickly realized the empath in me would not allow for me to be a good therapist. I would, in fact, need the best therapist. 4 years, about $50,000 down the drain and back to the drawing board. I was working as a waitress all through university and making really good money doing that, so once I'd graduated, I was offered a management position at 23 with a pretty good salary, and I accepted. My parents, pissed. This is where I need to clear something up. Every culture has a different way of raising their kids. They usually want them all to be happy, healthy, and successful. Iranian culture is very similar, but there's a little extra weight on that prosperity element. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, the big bucks. The parents want to be able to call home and peacock about how successful their kids are. Being raised as a Canadian, though, and my parents did a very good job of that, they spoke English in the house when they were still trying to learn English themselves. They put us in French immersion school knowing it would far benefit us better than weekend Farsi lessons. But the cultural elements were still there, and they were quite clear about those expectations for us. And when we did not meet those expectations, we were met with gross disappointment. Not anger or verbal or emotional abuse, just really thick guilt trips. Like my choosing to be a chain restaurant manager was the disgrace of the century to the family name. I will make very clear right now, my parents are my biggest fans and greatest supporters today, but we had to work to get here. So every time my sister and I would throw them a blow to the gut, and there were plenty of those, there was the initial negative reaction, followed by a healthy discussion, acceptance, and encouragement. My parents are wonderful, special human beings, but they are humans whose patience I tested many times in my life. When I chose to go back to school for human resources after a couple years of restaurant management, they were elated and excited and so supportive. And then a year later, when I chose to quit that HR job, just a month after getting it because it was miserable, the people were miserable, and I was miserable, they were pissed. Another 5K down the drain. When I decided to follow my passion to the restaurant industry and return to school one last time for a hospitality operations management certificate, they were like, okay, whatever, it's your money. And when I finished my certificate and still realized I didn't have the faintest clue what I was doing with my life, my dad offered for me to come work at his company. And he had started in the steel industry 25 years prior as an accountant and had slowly worked his way through the ranks to CFO and part owner. Does it sound glamorous? It's not. But there I was, 28, fresh out of my third stint of post-secondary education and spinning. So I was like, okay. I started as a sales rep, but ended up settling into a role into purchasing. I was really strong at relationship building, and I used that skill consistently. I was with the company for almost 9 years, and they were very good to me. I didn't hate my job. I didn't hate the people that I worked with, but it didn't make me happy. I always had a side hustle on the go. Serving tables, side businesses, random event decor jobs, whatever. I liked the extra money, and I had way too much energy to go home and do nothing at the end of the day. Entering into 2019, I was running a little gift box business. Doing custom and corporate gifting, I was really busy too, but I had grossly underpriced myself and was finding it challenging to increase my pricing. So it ended up being about a year of really pretty charity work. Biggest life lesson I've learned to date: never underestimate your value. Your time and your skills are worth something. They're worth a lot, especially if someone needs the end result of that time or those skills. I'm pretty confident that we as women have just been socially programmed to be givers. For me, no more. In a personal life sense, I've been working on this for a few years. It takes every ounce of effort in me to say no. I used to just drop what I was doing and do whatever. For anybody, I think my business actually helped me learn to say no because I was too busy to say yes. People are shameless. They will not hesitate to ask you for something. They will be especially inclined to ask you for something if they know they can get it for free or cheap. This is why I don't like asking for favors. This is why I don't like asking people for coupons or discount codes. Don't do it, especially not to small businesses, please. In a business sense, price your product accurately and don't underprice yourself to get the order. I've been a giver my whole life, but at the tender age of 37, I have finally learned the life skill of saying no. A man has never hesitated to slap a generous price tag on his skill set. I encourage you to do the same. So, I knew I needed to make a change and have been exploring options for my next project and remembered the candles. Oh, I have slides. That I had made for my bridal shower favors a couple years prior. My friends and family were messaging me for months after the event, complimenting the candle, which looking back, though they were so sloppy and so dangerous, but they were pink and cute. I was very happy with it. So I started researching the industry, techniques, ingredients, local suppliers, and I ordered some samples to give my hand at candle making a go. Through my research, I discovered there were a lot of toxins in your standard big brand candles, a terrifying amount, in fact, of chemicals and known carcinogens. I think it's pretty important to share a personal piece of myself now, one that I don't often speak about even with my closest family or friends. A few months prior to this decision and research, my husband and I had decided to start a family. I was being quite conscious and mindful about what products I was using on and around my body. I'm still not a mom today, so that was the beginning of what has ended up being a long and trying journey with infertility. I share this with you not for pity or compassion, but because this journey has shaped who I am as a person. It has forced me to channel a level of strength and perseverance that I did not think was possible, and frankly, it was most likely the driving factor for where my business is today. And this is going to come up a few times throughout this chat, so it's a big part of who I am. So I don't know if I was just very thorough in my research or calculated in my testing, pre-planning, selection. Maybe I just got lucky, but within a few tries, I had pretty much finalized a launch-worthy product in 12 cents. So that was like my first little table of candles that I ever made. After that, things progressed quite quickly. I announced the closing of the gift box business, liquidated everything, put that money back into my new business. I started building my branding, which was a task I chose to do myself because I couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it. And I already had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted everything to look like. I'm also not good at vocalizing what I'm thinking or what I want. Ask my staff, they will tell you all about that. So it was just me and the drawing board. Deciding on a business name was a journey. I feel like it always is. Don't have kids. Therefore, I've never been responsible for naming a human, but I feel like maybe we could compare the two. I wanted something meaningful. I wanted something that was easy to read and pronounce. I didn't want kids butchering the name and then bullying my business with a crappy nickname on the playground. For example, Flabby Shabby was a big part of my 4th grade identity. So times were tough. I didn't want that to happen to the business. I love Newmarket, and I'm really proud of this town that I live in, and I knew I wanted to incorporate that into my business name, but also I didn't want to move 3 blocks north and then throw everything off. So I went with Market. I went with Candle Company, clean, consistent, transparent. I already knew what the brand wanted to look like. I designed my own logo, labels, marketing materials, website, business cards. Also hated them, the whole kit and caboodle. I wanted a dark, moody, and modern vibe. I went with black and white. For those of you who say that black isn't a color, it's a shade, I say to you, who hurt you, and would you like to talk about it? I had a very clear brand vision from the start, and I wanted black, greenery, Parisian market booth vibe. From my very first market booth, a little rock star, I'm still inspired by the same concept today, and that makes me really proud to know that I've never really swayed from what my soul told me to do. Aside from the actual product, the one thing I did invest in was a bit of professional photography. I had a great friend help me out, which allowed to take some really pretty pictures for the website and for my social media. So things didn't look that cute when we were really starting. I was able to create some really nice marketing material, add a professional vibe to my website, build hype on my Instagram prior to launching, and to my surprise, it worked. We launched on May 6, 2019. I made a surprisingly generous amount of sales for an opening day where barely anybody knew I existed. And off to the races we went. And the next 6 months were an absolute grind. I worked every artisan market I could. I accepted every custom order. Used the sales experience that I'd had from my previous jobs to get retailers to stock my products on their shelves. I posted my day-to-day, behind the scenes, everything was on Instagram, still is today. It's been my main marketing tool and revenue generator. To this day, I show up even when I'm haggard, exhausted, sick, on vacation. That little red circle around my logo has not shut off in almost 3 years. I hustled and I hustled hard, cleared my social schedule, and spent the better part of summer, fall, and holiday 2019 either at my day job or in the basement. That's my little studio. I had established a cute little studio down there that was doing the trick for the time being. That black wall with the logo was really important for me. I was able to kind of visualize. I said, be the brand you want to be. This is a professional space. All while starting to privately dabble in some fertility treatments, while avoiding talking about it and just kind of fielding nosy Nelly questions because it was challenging emotionally, and I was just trying to run my business like nothing was happening. I vividly remember working a 2-day Christmas market in Oakville. I literally had an IUI on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. This required me to give myself a pretty aggressive stomach injection on the Friday night in a public washroom of the church hall. Was at my clinic at the crack of dawn on Saturday morning, drove to Oakville immediately after. My car broke down. Didn't bat an eye, had the best day of market sales ever. We had been diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which in my opinion is the stupidest kind because you get poked and prodded and tested up the wazoo, literally. And these guys come back with no answers. So we were attempting several rounds of IUIs while we waited for an almost 2-year waiting list for a government-funded round for IVF to come up. If you're not familiar with these terms or processes, all you really need to know is that aside from being emotionally and physically draining, as well as extremely time-consuming, they are expensive. If you don't have very generous benefits with extensive drug coverage, good luck to you. So I was on a pretty consistent cycle of day job, candle, ovaries, repeat. I was busy. I had made some pretty awesome new small business friends and some great customer pals, and I was working and keeping busy and staying distracted from the looming infertility depression. I did this contently and cushionly up until COVID hit. For 10 months, I'd been running this business. I was really happy, little organic growth, little basement studio, but when the pandemic hit, things got really crazy, really fast. The day they announced the world was shutting down, my website was crickets, and for a few days after that too. And I was like, oh, that was a good run. We had a nice time. We had fun times before everything started to crumble, and I was actually okay with it. I was like, our priorities are shifting as humans. Toilet paper and Lysol were the new currency. We as humans actually cared about each other. Simpler times, am I right? Oh. Once everybody had settled into their homes and bleached their surfaces and their souls and accepted their impending fates as homebodies for the next couple of weeks, something snapped. Ooh. It was mid-March, there was still a little nip in the air, and the people needed candles. And we were there for the people. I had it pretty easy as my husband continued to go to work, so I had the house to myself every day. But I feel like for the majority of society, between working from home, being cooped up with their partners and their kids and their pets, and trying to preserve the cleanliness of a home that was being used 24/7, and then attempting to preserve mental health and well-being, the demand from human beings to the candle industry exploded. I think the combination of maintaining some form of ritual and then aromatherapy benefits for your mental health, it proved to be soothing to a lot of people. The candle industry actually skyrocketed about 30% from 2019 to 2021. It's on track to be a $7 billion industry by 2026. My fertility clinic had also shut their doors the day after I'd gotten my results for our 6th failed IUI. They paused all treatments for the time being and essentially all communication as well. So I was left hanging high and dry, no plan, no answers, a slew of emotions, and all the time in the world to deal with my spiraling thoughts. Cue burying your emotions into your craft. Perfect timing because my website went from dead quiet to insanity in a matter of a few days. My day job had switched us to working from home, so my days were a juggling act of essentially waking up, running downstairs, turning on the melter, running back upstairs, answering some emails, running back downstairs, just leaving little waxy footprints all over my house, and so on and so forth. It was chaos, In the midst of this e-commerce boom, like many other industries, we were experiencing supply shortages left, right, and center on everything. I was extremely lucky to have been in the position that I was in as my cash flow was starting to gain some strength. And I was smart enough and I had really strong relationships with a handful of my suppliers. We knew these shortages were coming. I was able to stock up. I didn't actually pay myself a penny until January of 2021. I reinvested all of my money for the first year and a half back into my business. I was able to keep running my business, accommodate the increasing demand, and month after month I was breaking my sales records. I'm very grateful that I was able to keep up, but I was barely able to keep up. At this point, I was starting to feel very overwhelmed in regards to my workload. We were still very much so in a state of unknown. I did not want someone to come and enter my safe, germ-free space, so I just continued to run around like an idiot for the next 5 months. My husband was my grudgingly unofficial box carrier and cardboard disposal man. One of the things that actually irks me, and still does today, is when we discuss my business staffing with people who might not know much about me, they're always like, well, where's your husband? Doesn't he help? This isn't my husband's business, this is my business. I opened it, I started it, I grew it, it's mine. He helps if I'm in a jam and I ask him, but he also knows how independent and very, very stubborn I am. I only ask for help when I'm like nuclear meltdown Shabi. But I'm very proud of how much I've accomplished on my own, and my husband supports that, so I'm grateful for that. That's not to discredit any woman whose husband or partner supports that. I get it, sometimes it's family business, there's child rearing involved, but being a child-free woman has given me the independence that I didn't know I needed to get this business to where it is today. At this point, I'd also switched fertility clinics and was also up for a government-funded round of IVF. And from that switch, due to another round of testing, I'd actually discovered that my unexplained infertility was actually very explained by a little polyp that needed to be surgically removed in order for any treatment to work. And that clearly my initial doctor was a misdiagnosing Jack who cost me thousands of dollars and a chunk of my mental health. But that's another story for another day. My treatments were back in action though. I had an egg retrieval in August, which required me just to take a few days off, and I was supposed to have a surgery in September, but because elective surgeries were shut down, that actually ended up taking an entire other year. Another year shaved off the withering fertility, but another year to pour all my feelings into my business. No candle pouring, pun intended. So, hiring my first employee was needed, but it was also the first tactical step towards maybe one day having kids and having my business continue to run without me there. Despite the helping hand here and there, by the summer of 2020, I knew I had to get over myself and formally hire one of my favorite customer friends who had expressed interest in helping out should I ever need it. I had slowly upgraded my workspace over time, edging my way into larger, unused spaces of our home. So that was my next little level up studio, almost twice the size. I was painting all of the walls black, just leaving a trail of waxy residue and noir behind me everywhere I went. My first employee, Nina, would come to my house. We would just set up in the basement and she would just wick and sticker stacks and stacks of jars. At one point, there was a massive jar crisis. I had 4 skids of jars show up filthy. I went from being able to just really quickly work out of the box to having to run about 10,000 jars through my KitchenAid dishwasher from October to December. Our water bill. At that point, I'd had a healthy discussion with my dad about potentially reducing my workload at my day job, based on the financials I had shared with him, because he's a numbers guy. He had officially converted from skeptical father to like go team market candle. So he supported my decision, and within a couple weeks, I'd reduced my job down to part-time. The problem was those part-time boundaries weren't being respected because it was also chaos on their end, and I at one point just said, I think I just need to stop doing this entirely. So within a couple weeks of going down to part-time, I actually just gave my full notice. I have never felt such a sense of relief, but also absolute terror and, oh my Lord, what am I doing? I'm walking away from a cushy salary, benefits, bonuses, mileage for what? I don't know. I will note my husband has a very strong benefits program due to the coverage required that we needed for the fertility meds. I would not have been able to quit my job if I didn't have strong benefits from them, and I know that not everybody has that freedom. But with my day job behind me, I had officially become my own boss, full-time business owner, and I gave it my everything. That fall and winter, I had one of my most successful launches, which just under $25,000 in sales in less than 24 hours. And I know for large companies, that seems like nothing. To my porch pickup basement crafting business, this was a dry heaving inducing astronomically high number. To this day, I still haven't beat, probably won't as we get back to a state of normal. We were still in a lockdown limbo. Retail stores were half shuttered. People had come to realize that they were going to be doing a good majority of their holiday shopping online, and so they shopped. How do I push play? Am I gonna push play? Is it gonna run by itself? I'll just describe it to you. My entire house was taken over by boxes. Absolute chaos. I received 260 orders in one day. My entire living room and dining room was taken over. It was just nutty. I managed to get through that. Oh dear. Something terrible has happened. I managed to get through that holiday season in my basement, but we just squeaked by. With transport trucks dropping off skids of jars and wax. Oh. Oh, it's gone sideways. Well, there's my dining room. We all just do a little bit of this, we could get it. It was chaos. It was absolute chaos. We just squeaked by with transport trucks dropping off skids of jars and wax on my very quiet residential street. And there was like a small Thanksgiving Day parade worth of people coming every day to just pick up orders off my porch. My neighbors were not impressed. I didn't have a doubt in my mind that I needed to get my business out of the house. No room was safe from the wrath of MCC. Everything was everywhere, and it was only getting worse. And this is just, okay. This takes you on a tour of my house, which is utter chaos. So I started looking for a commercial space in 2020, and with the help and encouragement of some great pals, I ended up securing a really small space to move my business out of my home and into. Is this it? Oh, now it's gonna play, for Pete's sake. There's no need, everything's fine. Our first commercial space. I also finally paid myself my first paycheck. If I was gonna pay rent, I was gonna pay myself. It was not a fat paycheck. I firmly believe that as I continue to grow my business, I will continue to reinvest my money into my business, expand my staff, better equipment, whatever. I pay myself what I need to. But the feeling of actually paying myself a paycheck was surreal. I went from answering, to a team of older white men to answering to myself. I went from driving an hour to work and an hour back to 5 minutes there and 5 minutes back. And I live in Lululemon, so sorry, but you can't put a price on that. I dare you. Our small first space was a little teeny, a little scuzzy, but she had room to make candles and room to store more skids. Fact, a skid of wax has 60 25-pound boxes. Wax cannot handle temperature shifts. So whenever a transport truck with 2 skids of wax would show up at my front door, no matter what the season, I had to drop what I was doing, proceed to the front to then hand bomb 120 25-pound boxes up my stairs into my house and then downstairs into my basement. So I was in very good shape when I was working out of my house. To have the luxury of a garage door where I could just roll those in, though, it was priceless. I felt like I was living the life of the bourgeois. With the extra space, I was able to then hire an extra helping hand. But quickly after she started, I realized I needed more space. When I had started looking for that initial space, I proceeded with great financial caution. You go from having 0 overhead to much overhead, and that's a pretty spooky thing. I didn't really account for room to grow or scale. So within 4 months, I'd actually found a unit down the street and upgraded my space. So 6 months after I moved out of my house, I was moving into a 2,600 square foot facility. The new space was twice the size, with an actual little shop for a little retail space. I knew it was going to be a challenge to open a shop during the pandemico, but I reckoned I could navigate it. I planned an aggressive month of DIYing to make the retail space what I wanted it to look like, and I got right to work. And I was pretty much there day and night working on the front while the girls ran the back. I did everything on my own. I did floors and ceilings and walls and decals and building, and it was a nightmare. I had some helping hands. Merchandising is not my strength, but aside from that, I was there all the time. With a few delays that were to be expected, I was open in early September. I operated on an appointment-only basis. We were dealing with germs and fluctuating capacities, but people were very excited, they were spending, and I was so pumped. And once the retail space was open, I was forecasting another busy holiday season, so I decided to hire another helping hand. I think a lot of people think that working in a candle shop is like cute crafting. It's not. It's very labor intensive. It's heavy lifting, standing, repetitive, hot. You're schlepping boxes left, right, and center. And I needed to know that people knew what they were getting into. I got a bunch of really qualified candidates, but one of them I saw stood out to me, and I now see her as a big part of my future growth. So aside from the actual ability to do the physical job, I hire based on personality, because you can train anybody to make a candle, but you cannot train somebody to have a personality. And because we are a close team of women, we work together, we like to laugh, we like to have a good time together. They encourage my TikToks and my creative flow, and they're a key part of my life now, especially after a couple years of avoiding people. Like, the women that work for me are my humans. So we crushed fall and winter 2021, we navigated a newly opened retail shop, we flip-flopped capacity limits, and we experienced another year of amazing growth, both physically and financially. So we've increased our revenue by 35% over 2020, and here we are. So once in a while, when I have a hot second to take a step back, I kind of scratch my head and I wonder, like, how did we get here? I don't have a degree in business. I have so many degrees, not in business. Most days I haven't the faintest idea what I'm doing. I'm literally learning how to run a business, be a boss, follow everything in between. Go. And when most people think of a successful business owner, I feel like they visualize a person like lapels, power suit, and cruising out the front of beautiful pumps and driving their luxury vehicle and waltzing into. And to confirm what you're probably already at this point, I am not that girl. Messy, I tumble out my mediocre vehicle and chaotically struggle through days every day. Says successful, unsure, but I'm very happy. I'm still on my journey to motherhood. There's a lot of reading material out there on how to open a business on your maternity leave. There is not a lick of decent advice on how to continue to operate a six-figure handmade business while navigating infertility during a pandemic with a potential pregnancy or motherhood. Maybe that's my next career move. A little writing? Maybe, I don't know. If it doesn't work out for us, then I know I'll have something to keep me busy until I retire. Fingers crossed. Support local. But for now, I'm just thankful to be on this entrepreneurial journey, to be able to wake up every day and do something that I love, and to be able to do it in this amazing community with these amazing women. So if you're still listening, thank you. Sorry for my ramblings. And I hope if you take nothing else from today, just keep in the back of your mind that if Hot Express Shabi can do it, you can probably do it too. Cheers, thank you. I'm gonna exit stage left. Chad, you can go this way. Hello, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Shabi and Julie, for sharing your inspiring stories with us today. Both of you have such unique stories and journeys that you've been on, and I remember when I met with both of you, I left that day feeling so inspired and just like ready to take on my career as well. My name is Rachel Houghton. I'm from the NewRoads Automotive Group, and now it is time for the Women of Excellence Award. So an incredible amount of work goes on behind the scenes to gather the nominations, send out the questionnaires, and on part of our judges to narrow down the finalists for the award. We are so lucky to live in a community that steps up to nominate women that they want to recognize for their accomplishments and actions in our community. The finalists are recognized for their roles in the community, in volunteering, as a role model for other women, and for their accomplishments in their business or career. I would like to thank the judges for their time and effort in selecting our finalists, and I think they should all maybe be here today. So we had Audrey Watch from RBC Royal Bank. We had Kelly Broom. Oh. We had Kelly Broom from CHATS, the Community and Home Assistance to Seniors. We had Maria Charlandini from Vince's Market. Sienna Fardy from Sun Life Financial, and Ruby Liu from Newmarket Toyota. You guys really had a tough job narrowing down from the nominees to the finalists and then choosing a winner. There were so many incredible women who were nominated this year. We had 30 nominations, which is a really amazing amount of women. All of our nominees are in your program. If you want to take a moment to check them out and check out their businesses or what they do in the community, they all deserve this award, and I wish I could get every single one of them an award. I do not envy the judges having to narrow this down, so good job to them as well. So for the finalists, we would like to present you guys their videos and introduce them all to you guys.
Hi, I'm Kate Gervais, the Executive Director of York Region Food Network, and we are in our production kitchen preparing food for the community. We are York Region's largest food security organization, and we provide community food programs to residents and organizations across the region. At York Region Food Network, food is a right, and we believe that good food is crucial for physical, mental, emotional, and cultural well-being. We strive to incorporate an equity lens and anti-oppressive practices into everything we do. At our core, we are a community food organization. Our programs are available to all ages and abilities, and we create spaces for people to have access to fresh food, form friendships and social connections, and learn food skills through our community kitchens and good food programs. Our services and programs are vital in supporting people's immediate needs, but we are not an organization that settles on the status quo. Daily, we are in awe of the folks we have the privilege to work with. The strengths, experience, knowledge, diversity, and skills available in our community are incredible. And we are committed to ensuring that everyone has equal access to basic rights, such as food. This is why we work tirelessly to not just run programs, but to address the bigger picture. That poverty is at the root cause of food insecurity, and we all need to be advocating for policies that ensures everyone has the income to have their right to food met. I am extremely grateful to be working in the community where I grew up, and I'm honored to be a finalist in the Women of Excellence Award.
Hi, I'm Emmy, Chief Operating Officer at Blue Door. It's such an honor to be here today and to be one of the finalists. Thank you. Hands-on management and help to map the strategic development of the organization. Blue Door was founded in 1982 and is now the largest emergency housing provider in York Region, giving life-saving support to people facing homelessness. Our vision is a region where everyone has safe, affordable, and supportive housing. To address the root causes of homelessness, Blue Door's 4 strategic key priorities are housing, health, employment, and organizational excellence. These priorities are captured in Blue Door's ongoing and new services, including seasonal and year-round emergency housing, supportive housing, housing retention services, health supports, and Construct, a trades-based employment social enterprise. Blue Door is at the forefront of innovation, leading the way in thinking outside the box to prevent homelessness and provide affordable housing solutions for vulnerable people experiencing homelessness. I encourage you to get involved and be part of the solution. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barb Steed, Executive Vice President of Clinical Services at Southlake, and I am so honored to be a finalist in today's event. Southlake makes a significant difference for the people of our community. During COVID, we've opened assessment and vaccine centers and cared for over 1,200 patients admitted with COVID. We've held town halls, and our experts have appeared in media to answer questions from members of the public. We have partnered with the town of Newmarket to open Ontario's first max vaccination clinic at the Ray Twinney Arena, an assessment center at the Senior Centre, and a COVID cough, cold and flu clinic at the Youth Complex. We channeled the very generous donations of Newmarket businesses to our staff to help boost morale. I take pride in mentoring emerging leaders and have continued to learn from very strong female leaders throughout my career. Outside of work, I'm focused on wellness, friends and family, and go for a run every morning. I love to travel, and in 2018, I trekked to Mount Everest Base Camp as part of a community fundraising team. Once again, I'm very honored to be a finalist for this award.
Moment to congratulate our finalists. They're joining us virtually today, so congratulations to you guys for becoming a finalist. And I have the name of the winner here. So the winner is, congratulations to Emmy Kelly. They've joined us virtually today. have joined us virtually today and will not be coming on stage, but we have them on screen.
I can't thank you enough for this amazing opportunity. I feel honored, grateful, and blessed. The work we do is made possible because of the amazing community that we live and work in. I'm so appreciative of this.
And Chris, if you want to come up, we can do our closing remarks. So on behalf of the NewRoads Automotive Group and the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce, we would like to thank you for coming to celebrate the incredible women in our community. I would like to take a special thanks to the team from the Newmarket Chamber who have worked really tirelessly behind the scenes to work on this event and bring everything together. So we could not have done this without you, and thank you.
This event doesn't happen without a lot of people working hard, and thank you, Rachel, and to your team at NewRoads. This event, I think, works well, bringing two previous events together. And special congratulations and thank you to all those women that were nominated and everyone that is here today, joining us virtually as well. Thank you, and have a great year ahead. Thank you.